Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. I've still got to get this one playing, but wow, on our Wellness Wednesday. And as you guys, we've been saying over these past few videos we've been doing on the Solutions channel here, we are all about bringing in healing, creating solutions for issues, whereas on Aquarius Rising Africa, we bring up the ugly stuff. As you guys all know, we talk about a lot about this high level child transportation and who's involved and stuff like that, and listening to some horror stories from a lot of people. And now we're creating the bridge to move into what are the solutions? How do we heal from that? So tonight, of course, I am so grateful and so happy to have my beautiful friend all the way from Atlanta, Brice from Esoteric Atlanta. And we're going to be talking some yogic practices. But before doing that, when I say practices, it's more the cleansing. We're having a series every second week with Brice as well on this. So we're going to be talking every week about something, or every second week rather, about something more, going more into the whole beautiful practice of yoga, which I just love.
Yeah.
So, but before we do that, Brice, welcome and thank you for being here. It's such a pleasure to have you. It's so wonderful.
I'm beginning to talk to you every day this week, and I'm gonna be talking to you tomorrow too. It's so exciting.
It is. I'm just so chuffed to have you. But before we get into that, I would love for you to share with us and our viewers your journey into yoga. What got you interested in yoga? What got you started in yoga? And yeah, let's start with that. So over to you, beautiful lady.
Well, there's that saying that if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And that's kind of how yoga fell into my life. If you had asked me as a teenager if I would ever be doing yoga, I'd been like, no. Of course, back then, not many people even knew what yoga was. Back in the 90s, it wasn't really big where I am in the Southeast. But I think for me, we're both Aquarians. I think Aquarians typically are pretty open-minded people anyway. We're more of the kind of live and let live people, as far as, very, we have our own way of doing things, but other people's lifestyles never really bothered me that much. It was always so I knew it was there, and I'm always kind of, my whole life, I've always had spiritual experiences that people couldn't explain. And so the fact that it ended up going into a modality like yoga for healing is not, it's the irony isn't lost on me, because the yoga practice does bring you back into your body. And a lot of times in that spiritual practice, we tend to get so up in the quantum that we forget to actually come back down into the body. But for me, I was always always had a lot of energy. In fact, I am the type of person that has the propensity to over exercise. That's something I know about myself. I'm Vata Pitta. So I think that's the Pitta in me kind of will push it a little too far sometimes. And it was when I first really found yoga. Do you guys know, you remember the Spice Girls? The Spice Girls. Yeah. So I was I was maybe 20. And I decided that I needed to be doing yoga once a week. I was a hardcore runner at this time. And I thought, like most people do think, that yoga was just about stretching. And so I didn't know anything about yoga teachers or yoga lineage, anything like that. But I was in the store. This was when we still had some VHSs, before DVDs. And there was a VHS of Jerry Halliwell from the Spice Girls doing yoga, a yoga exercise video. I knew who she was from the Spice Girls, but I didn't know who any of the other. So I got her video because I knew who she was. And so that was my first ever yoga practice, was a VHS of Jerry Halliwell from the Spice Girls. I think, what was she? Ginger Spice, doing a yoga practice. And that's what I would do. I would do it, a few times a week. But I realized that as I got deeper into it, how it was really starting to change me, and how calm I was after I did the video, which was not normal for me. I'm very, I have a lot of anxiety issues. I have a lot of nervousness and overthinking and do, go. So that was a very new sensation for me. Well, then over time, I started to learn more. I started to actually go to proper classes. not just DVDs. And so of course you kind of go into that traditional, not traditional, but more contemporary, what you see everywhere is as vinyasa flow, where they play the music and they choreograph the classes. I started doing that more and more and more and more and more. And as time went on, it was funnily enough, as yesterday we were talking about the spider bite stuff, which we're going to go into next week deeper, but it was around that time that I was with my friend's house going through artwork in his attic, and there's this voice that tells me to do things all the time. I recognize it, and it said, go to India and study yoga. Go to India and study yoga. Like basically nudging me to take that next step. And that was kind of what started me in this journey of Ashtanga yoga, which before I even went to India, that was years before I actually even went to India, I had to then go and learn more of a traditional practice, which was the Ashtanga lineage was the one that I ended up in. My original teacher, Ashtanga teacher, was a man named David Garrigues, who is up in Philadelphia. And in the Ashtanga practice, you first get your authorization through KPJAYI, and there's like 500 people authorized in the world right now. I'm one of them. And then there's only like 50 people who are certified. So certification through KPJAYI is a really big deal. Only 17 of them are women. So it takes a long time to get. You have to complete a certain amount of the series, and it's just, these are like the Mac daddies of the teachers, the real senior teachers. And David Garrigues ended up being one of the most influential teachers and human beings in my life, period. All right. So yes, David Garrigues, when I started practicing with him in Philadelphia, it put my practice in hyperdrive. And this, again, wasn't necessarily like the physical demands of the practice, although the physical demands of the practice are part of that as well. It's not the whole part. He's the one that really encouraged deep philosophy study, really giving a purpose to the movement on the mat. And he is such an incredible philosophy teacher. And he really, really was the first person to really explain the true impact of the teachings of the Yoga Sutras with the nature, with Prakriti, Purusha, Ishvara, all that stuff, and how the soul connects to Ishvara and Prakriti is the Shakti of the soul. And it's here basically kind of what we were talking about yesterday, Shanti. It's the nature is here for us to learn and have lessons, but it isn't our actual identity. That's something that's different that connects to Ishvara. And so it really, at that point, it was like this internal transformation started happening for me, which I think, Shanti, I think most people that are bring themselves into a deep spiritual practice, regardless of whatever modality it is, that transformation is not always pretty. You go through that deep, dark night of the soul, that ego death, and you start to like observe your own attachments and observe where you're kind of missing the mark sometimes. And that to me is the whole point of the yoga practice, is to heal you through understanding your own boundary, the boundaries you placed on yourself, your own limitations, kind of like what you do as far as like understanding why this resistance is there. I mean, that's one thing we have to have, is that friction in order to create that heat, in order to create change and movement. And he was the first person. And for people who are familiar with the Ashtanga practice, it's not a relaxing practice. It's intense. We have these sayings in Ashtanga, and whenever anybody starts the Ashtanga practice, we always laugh because they become Ashtangarexic. They like drop a bunch of weight. I mean, it's very intense. And that intensity can be, it is what it is, but when it's used in the proper way with a good teacher, then it can work magic. If the intensity is used in the wrong way from a bad teacher, it can cause major destruction. And with David Garrigues, the intensity was so magical. He got me all the way into like the second series with no injuries from him, nothing, because he was such a good teacher. And he really focused on understanding your body within the practice, because that's, again, the thing about the Ashtanga practice. If you're not totally aware of what you are doing in the practice in your whole entire body, you will hurt yourself. You will. And so he really, and when you start to really understand how to use the physical, the gross body, then things start to unlock for you within your psyche, within where you're holding shit basically in your body. And you start to, and of course we know in the subtle body that we hold information. The body is the mind field. So when we talk about yoga being silencing the mind or stopping the thought, it's not just dealing with the brain. It's actually also dealing with the physical body, because that's where we store stuff. That's where we store information. And so when that information, especially the hips, I mean, the hips are like Pandora's box for everyone. I don't care if you're flexible or not.
Absolutely.
It is that junk drawer. Everybody in their house has that junk drawer where they don't know where to put things. So they just shove it in this one drawer and it's disorganized.
Yeah.
That's your hip. And so, and of course in Ashtanga, we go right into it, like with the leg behind the head. There's no like stretching the hips and like slowly, it's literally you crank that leg behind your head. And so all of a sudden, these feelings come up, and this stuff starts to come up within you. And of course, in the Ashtanga practice, we typically practice in a style that's called Mysore. It's named after the town in India that holds the lineage, Mysore, India. And Mysore, basically, it's, give or take times for shalas across the world, it'll open at like 4:00 in the morning and close at like 8-9 o'clock in the morning. And so the student comes in at any point during that window of time and they do their assigned practice, whatever series they're working on, independently with the teacher walking around and helping them each individually. There is no leading the class. We do like one leg class a week for primary series, and it's taught on a vinyasa, Sanskrit count, no workshopping, all that kind of stuff. So it's very different from what you see in like the more contemporary yoga studios. But so when you're in that environment where you're surrounded by all these people who are also having their dark night of the soul around you when they're working on their practice, and sweat is flying everywhere, it's just very intense. And you're in these asanas, these postures, these seats for meditation, and they're not comfortable. And these thoughts are coming up and these emotions are coming up, and you have no props around you. You don't have music playing. You have no one else to look at but yourself. You can't be mad at the teacher because the teacher isn't choreographing this. This is already an assigned practice. They're just teaching it to you. So you can't project that on the teacher. You have to all of a sudden flip it and look within yourself and figure out, why am I being triggered by this? For me, back bending was a huge thing for me. I'm pretty flexible in my hips and my hamstrings and my shoulders, but I'd already had spinal surgery as a child. And of course, we know the spine is where the nadi of Sushumna lives, which is the kind of the portal up the spine from Kundalini to. So the spine is very important. And back bending in Ashtanga yoga isn't just like one singular back bend. Like we crank into back bends. We actually call it cranking, where you get pulled in to catch your ankles and you're doing drop back stand up to all this kind of stuff. And you can't skip it. Now, with a good teacher, they're not going to force you to the extreme of the posture in the first day. It's going to take years to build up. It's going to take years to work the baby steps. Again, even though I just laughed about Pandora's box, we actually don't want to open Pandora's box. We want to slowly do this dance, this dance with the body and the thoughts, and slowly, so we don't actually traumatize the body or traumatize the mind. We just allow things to come up in a very healthy way, to be able to then deal with it. And the teacher is not going to be able to give you the answers to deal with it. That's part of the pratyahara of, I think you said it eloquently, like it's like you're, as a teacher or healer, you're just the conduit. It's the person that has to do their own work. Otherwise it's just not going to go anywhere. It's just going to stay there. And it's funny that I feel like I'm a really good backbending teacher now, because that's where I really had to work the hardest in my practice. But the minute it starts to open, I could feel all these things. We carry all this stuff in our solar plexus. And I tell my students all the time, backbending is more about stomach opening. Is really what it's more about, is opening the front of the body, not really bending the back of the body. That's really the point, is to get that fluidity going through the torso, where the Sushumna is, where Kundalini is, where all the magic really is that makes us magical human beings. And there was one time I was in a Mysore class with another teacher. It was a workshop I was doing, and there's a deep back bend in the second series called Kaputasana. And this is one of these postures where people will like write blogs about, because they're just this one posture just wrecks people so much. And the teacher yanked me into the posture, and it's such an extreme back bend. And I came out of that posture and I just smacked him right in the face. It was like Kaputasana heard round the world. I mean, it was literally, and I felt so bad because I've never hit anyone. I was like, I'm so sorry. And he was fine with it. He just pulled me right back into the back bend again. I think he was used to it, but it just shows you how how much information we have stored within us that we don't even
Yeah.
want to even deal with, but it is affecting us, whether we know it or not, it's subconsciously or
Yeah.
not. And that's the beauty of yoga, is that it gives you a platform, it gives you a modality to start to do the work if you want to do the work, if you want to have that
Absolutely.
dark night of the soul. And then from then, David Grieg was instrumental in actually getting me into the school I went to in India, because we have to have letters of recommendation. And that's going back, well, you know, Shanti, I mean, sometimes we say with India, Mother India is the real teacher once you
Oh
get
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, she really is the source of yoga, isn't she?
Yeah.
You know? And I mean, if we just look back at the ancient yogis, I mean, here in South Africa, we have the ancient Bushman people, and they were drawing paintings and things on rocks and things, and you know, that's how they wrote and communicated. And in India, they've discovered the same thing, you know, so that's how far yoga has gone. You know, far back. And the ancient yogis, and I know from what I understand, and I'm not sure what lineage this is though, they were, it was only practiced by men, and it was practiced in secret initially because they wanted to, and they did it through observing nature and sacred geometry. So that's why a lot of the postures you will find in yoga have animal names, because, for example, they were observing animals and how they were breathing, you know, and they're like, they discovered when, for example, a deer pricked up its eyes, it was activating, its ears, it was activating its third eye. So they observed all these amazing things within the yoga practice. So yoga really, it's such a magnificent teaching opportunity and tool, I think, for every person. I mean, you know, the word yoga means a prayer to the divine through your body. That's really what it is, you know. And I mean, there are many different styles. I mean, Ashtanga is probably the most extreme style. I didn't study Ashtanga. I studied the Hatha, but in the Shivananda lineage, which we, you know, when we studied, it was the 12 main core postures. And from those, you do your variations, obviously, as you grow. It's definitely not as extreme as that. We do our full-on warm-ups, and you know, you get your body limber and what have you before you start doing your hectic stretches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's still, you know, either way, I think each person, if they start with yoga, is going to be attracted to whatever lineage they need to be following and whatever's going to resonate with them. But it is such a magical practice. I mean, I've been doing it now, and actually, I mean, I'm in my mid-50s, so a little bit on the other side of the mid-50s now. But I want to tell you, it is the best, most beautiful thing. I mean, at least 4 days a week, at least, I'm on my mat. And there have been times where I haven't been on my mat. I must say, there have been times where I skip for about a month. I just decide I'm not actually doing anything for a month. Wow, my body feels it. I feel it. It's like, and the minute I get back on my mat again, it's just amazing. Everything just starts moving and flowing, and ideas and energy and creativity. It is just such a magical practice. It really is. I just love it.
And at this point, I don't even teach Mysore anymore, because my program was shut down with the lockdown, but I do teach courses a lot. And I, you know, and because of YouTube now, I can't teach daily, but the courses I do, it's interesting you say that, because we always start in Ashtanga, you always start with the sun salutation, Surya Namaskar. And I try to, when I'm working, so if I'm teaching like regular students who've been practicing for a while, and if I'm teaching like the one like class a week, I'm just counting Ekam inhale, Dwe exhale, Trini inhale, Chatwari exhale. I'm just counting them through the breath counts. I'm not giving any other direction, because the lead class in Ashtanga is a collective meditation, and that count becomes that japa, that mudra, you know, to keep them on this beat together. But when I'm working with like beginners in a course and introducing them to the practice, and we're starting with Surya Namaskar with the sun salutations, I always try to talk them through, because we start with the sun salutations to generate that heat in the body. And what that heat is literally, so Surya, prana, the upward rising energy in a human being is prana. And that is always shown by the sun. The aponic energy, or the downward flowing energy is represented by the moon. So Surya Namaskar is that igniting. Namaskar is like a greeting. So it's like igniting that heat, that prana in the body. And I always talk them through, when you're jumping back and then you're in that downward facing dog for 5 breaths, to feel actually when they're in there, connect with the heart pounding and to feel the blood moving and to make connection with that is their sacred blood. That is their sacred DNA. That is their life force that is coming alive within their body, and to observe the movement and the heat of the practice, not as something that's exercise, or I know we're going to speak more of this with Catherine tomorrow with how the delusions of exercise, but how this is the body showing you how magical you are. Because even though the body is nature, it's not the soul, it's nature. It is still the Shakti of the soul, the expression of the soul. Yes. And so when you feel that heart pounding in the sun salutations, and you feel, you can, I tell my students all the time, downward facing dog is a variation of a handstand. So actively press into the hands, feel the energy coming through the hands to the fingertips. Feel as your arms, your serratus anterior, your ribs start to move. So many adults can't even move their ribs, and ribs are supposed to move.
They're fluid. Absolutely.
And so
there is nothing better than feeling that flexibility. Just as you say, like pushing into that, stretching, moving, and just wow. I found as well. I mean, I used to do pole fitness, and I absolutely loved it. But because of my flexibility with yoga, I remember once I was doing a pole workshop, and I was like a couple of meters in the air, and I misjudged and I fell. But I want to tell you, had it not been for I'm talking like 2-3 meters up. So one can often you'll get more hurt falling from that height than from 10 or 20 meters down, usually, because it's with such an impact. So all I did, I remember just turning and curling into the fetal position. And had I not had my yoga training to think literally, I would have really, I just landed with a slap on the floor, my ass. I didn't even have a bruise. I want to tell you, I didn't even have a bruise. But that was really the movement, the flexibility, the agility that yoga gave me. And I think yoga needs to be, whether you are an active yogi or whether you are something or someone that maybe just does it, whether you can do yin yoga or maybe a more gentle practice, whatever, to give flexibility and within the muscles and within the body. Even if you're a runner, any sports person, a rugby player, a soccer player, I think everyone should be doing yoga, just to give them that flexibility, that movement, because immediately you're going to be creating a lot less injuries.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. And even from the just very baseline, yoga makes your body feel better. And so when you feel better, you act better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When you're tired or not hurting or sick, you're not the best you. You can be, it can turn your personality. And so when you feel better, you do better, you act better. And I always tell my students, because Ashtanga is so intense, it is the most extreme practice of yoga. I always tell my students, you can't fail. The only way you can fail yoga is if you're a complete asshole. Like, that's the only way you can fail.
You don't get on your mat.
You don't get on your mat. Like, that's the only way you can fail it. And the thing about yoga too, the body, and what's fascinating as well, is that the body, there's 2 big major laws of Prakriti, which is nature. There's two real big laws. The one is that Prakriti has a birth, a life, and a death. It's cyclical, it cycles. And because it has a birth, a life, and a death, it's always changing. The body is always, always, always changing. And so with that being said, even when you get to a certain point in the Ashtanga practice where you're standing up with your leg behind your head, or you're doing Vishikrasana, handstand with the feet on the head, and doing these crazy, like Cirque du Soleil type of movements on your mat, your body's always going to be shifting and changing. So at some point, that's not going to be there forever. At some point, you're going to have to go give postures back. You're going to have to go back downwards, back to primary series again. And that yoga is also teaching you that attachment that we have to our physical bodies. And when you're able to do these magnificent postures and then one day you can't anymore, that's another lesson in itself, to be able to like release it and be like, oh, well, it was fun while it lasted. Here I am again. And it's funny because in the Ashtanga lineage, even though the practice kind of demands a lot of flexibility, you will never hear an Ashtanga teacher tell students to get more flexible, but they will tell them to get stronger. You'll be in a freaking handstand and a teacher will be yelling at you, get stronger, get stronger, get stronger. But there's also that magic with the strength that comes with yoga too.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that even existed when I bought my Jerry Halliwell Spice Girl VHS 19 years ago. God, that was 19 years ago. You know, but the strength, I mean, I look at my body now at 39 years old, and I think I look better now than I did at 29 years old.
Absolutely.
And a lot of that is that practice and the fact that I have a level of strength now in my physical body that I didn't have before, because now every single morning we practice 6 days a week. I have to lift my own body weight up for 2 hours straight. And if I don't lift my body weight up properly to lift up, jump back, then I'm going to injure myself. And I have injured myself before. And so even in those moments of the practice where you're exhausted, you're nearing the end of your practice, you're tired, that's when the mind starts to lose focus. And that's when you really have to ground yourself even more into your body to really press and really utilize the muscles that God gave you to practice this. And you definitely, so with the Ashtanga lineage, you can definitely tell though, it was a practice created by men for men. Women have really, there's a lot of upper body strength involved in this. And that's something women definitely, but women are typically a little bit more flexible than men, just typically, generally speaking. But yeah,
they are. But men are stronger.
Yeah.
So you'll find the men, especially with the upper body, arm balances, stuff like that, you know, that the men will often get that a lot quicker than the women, but the women are generally more flexible. Absolutely. But I love that because it's about strength. And isn't that because, you know, it's like as within, so without. So it really, you know, when you learn how to quiet that mind, and that through the breath work, through all of that the yoga teaches us, we learn to bring that mind into alignment, to slow down or to switch off, as we're saying, the monkey mind. You then learn to be at one with your body and really appreciate this beautiful vehicle that God has given us through which we express our spirit, because that truly is what it is. And when we really get to I don't want to say be in control of the body, because that's not really what it is. It's not controlling the body, but it's more being at one, being at peace, understanding, loving this body, no matter what shape you are, no matter what size you are, no matter what color you are, no matter how tall you are, no matter how short you are. You know, we tend to look at ourselves in the mirror, and especially as women, let's face facts. And we've been taught through this whole system of vanity that I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I've got too much cellulite, I've got too big boobs, too small boobs, whatever, you know. But with the yoga, we really learn to love this vehicle. I always say, you know, people who do yoga and are really connected to yoga, we do yoga because we love ourselves. Very often, people who go to the gym will go to the gym because they don't like themselves much. They want to go and work out because they've picked up weight over December, or they're not liking the way they're looking, and they're trying to pump iron to get more muscle so that they can get a six-pack, or I don't know, whatever. But there's often, and you very often, people are in conflict with their physical appearance. Yoga teaches us to love ourselves, warts and all. And I've really learned that, because in our next talk, in fact, Brice, we're having with Catherine, I think, we're going to be talking on body dysmorphia. And I think if anyone has had body dysmorphia, that would be me.
I have too. Yeah, totally.
And I think for me to actually have moved beyond that in itself is a miracle. So for me to be at ease and at peace with who I am, and really enjoy being in my skin, is all thanks to yoga. I can
Yeah.
tell you that much. And it's, guys, it's not just the practice, the asana, because
No.
the word asana means the physical practice. Yoga has 8 limbs. You'll hear about the 8 limbs of yoga. And as we go along, we're going to go into that. You know, it's the spiritual study. It's understanding how the mind works, how to calm the mind, and so much more in depth than that. But
I say,
the practice,
I'll tell my students a lot. The asana is just a tool. If you, it's super important, but not important at the same time. If you're overusing the asana or using it for the wrong purpose, to beat yourself up or to lose weight, all that kind of stuff, then it's bad. But if you're using
your body's going to tell you. And sorry to interrupt you. I want to just on that point, because if you are doing yoga, as you say, for the wrong reasons, and if you are practicing for the wrong reasons, you know, and especially when you're going into an intense practice like yours, you know, like the Ashtanga practice, and you are doing it because you want to lose 5 kilos before you go on holiday and wear your bikini, it's going to smack you in the bum right there and then. You're going to injure yourself. You're going to stop yourself, because that is your spirit speaking to you. You know, your spirit is your body is the manifestation of your spirit. But of course, your spirit is still queen or king, whichever way you look at it, right? So your spirit is going to stop you right there and then in that moment and say to you, stop. And you're going to go, oh no, I injured myself through yoga. No, the yoga didn't injure you. You injured yourself. Exactly, because
yes.
Exactly.
I tell you all the time, the posture is just a posture. It didn't hurt you. You hurt yourself in the posture. And we do say that in Ashtanga. We say there are 3 teachers. There's the practice is the teacher is the teacher, and the injury is the teacher as well. Exactly. Yeah.
And again, you know, being a healer and understanding that every part of the body means something. And as we go along in our healing practice as well, we understand how the chakras work. And that, you know, would be the work I teach would be the second leg, which is what I call keys to integration, which is really understanding how the chakras work, the body parts connected to the chakras, how to project yourself through the chakras, because it's all done via energy. Of course, everything is energy. Yeah. But when you have injured your right shoulder, for example, you look deeper within. What does the right shoulder mean? What is the body talking to you? How is the body speaking to you through that injury? It's not just back off and, okay, let my body heal. It's that as well, right? But it's really looking at what is that injury teaching you? What is that body part actually meaning on a deeper level? And where does the teaching come in there? So it's really, it's all integrated into this amazing, beautiful healing practice, because that's really what yoga is. I love it. It's just beautiful.
My favorite is the knees, when people have knee issues, because knee issues connect to the kidneys, and that's fear. So then you say, oh, what are you fearing? What, as my teacher says, why fearing? Why fearing? And if you actually ask yourself that, why fearing? Well, why am I fearing? Why am I fearing?
It's interesting, because the knees obviously would also be flexibility in terms of moving forward. Yeah. So the fear of moving forward, and again, looking at whichever direction, and the kidneys are related to the water organs, which is emotions, right? So when we're looking at the emotions stopping you from moving forward, then we start reading how the body is speaking to us. So the right knee would mean something, that's the masculine side, the left side is the feminine side. So then you start going deeper. And then this is the stuff you journal about. This is the stuff you reflect about. This is where, when you know, in our previous chat yesterday, when we were talking about my healing practice, this is where we get intimate with ourselves, where we really sit and we don't rush off to the doctor and have a knee replacement. Sometimes that may be necessary. But, you know, when you are really in alignment with God, your source, the divine creator, you appreciate what this injury is teaching you, and you know the body is designed to heal itself. Mm-hmm. And when all of these things come into alignment, then yes, maybe back off from your rigorous practice, do a much more gentle practice where you're actually nurturing the injury, and then you're bringing it back into full use again, that body part or whatever it is. That's when you glow, you blossom, you bloom. It's just an amazing thing. It really is.
And in our lineage, we talk a lot about the yoga fever. And that happened to me a lot, especially when I first started Ashtanga yoga. I would get what they call the yoga fever. And this was something that was exciting. Like our teachers in India get excited about this. So anytime I got like new postures or something and you integrated it, then a week later I would go to bed with like a low grade fever and I'd wake up in the morning fine. And then it happened again. And it was a celebratory thing. It was like, oh, good, it's working. There's something burning, there's karma burning.
Absolutely.
And I think as Westerners, we're so afraid of this kind of stuff. And it's like, no, but I told one student, I just completed a course, and this one student was like, kind of nervous because they're not the most flexible person in the class. And I was like, you're actually in the best position, because where there's obstacles, there's juice there. There's information there. There's something to bite down on. David Garrigues was that way. He would have these like young 20-year-old girls that could do, TikToks and all this stuff, no problem. Okay, whatever. But when like a 60-year-old man would come in that was a little bit overweight and couldn't touch his toes, now we have something to work with. Now we have resistance. And this is where the magic happens. This is where the juice is. This is where the gold is. It's like you're talking about that lead and then finding that gold. That was always his perspective. And I've now carried that on in my teaching and in my own practice. So when I'm up against the wall with something in my practice and something is heavy or uncomfortable, it's like, okay, no, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. What's here for me to learn? What juice, what information is this toughness, this resistance going to offer me in this practice right now about myself? And it's a lot like what you were saying yesterday. They go hand in hand, and that is the beauty of yoga. And it really is your own journey. It's not, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. The teacher isn't going to do the magic for you. The teacher is just going to show you the steps to get there. You have to do your own magic.
It is. And it's just a beautiful thing, and that's why I say as well, I always say it's the journey. It's such a journey, you're either a journey kind of person or a destination kind of person. If you're rushing to get to your destination, then you're going to miss out on so much. But, when you slow down on this journey and you look within, it's like literally walking outside and going into a desert and thinking there's nothing in the desert, okay? But when you stop and you look at the little flowers and you turn up the little, the little stones, and you go, oh my gosh, look at this. And you see these amazing little desert creatures and how there's an entire ecosystem there. It's the same thing in your body that we just think is this meat suit. It is not just this meat suit. I mean, you have 30 trillion cells in your body. One cell contains enough information to write 1,000 books of 600 pages each. And it's like this little universe. Every cell is a universe within you. And just by knowing that makes me want to explore it. Mm-hmm. And I think in this lifetime, I definitely don't have enough time to explore everything. But you should. Well, now that we're growing older, hey, you never know. Our lives are expelled.
I know, right?
We expand, or not expanding, getting longer. What's the word I'm looking for?
Our lifespan is going to be expanded. But I've heard 400 years is what I've heard. So if we're living to 400 years, we're preteens right now. So
exactly. So you see, there's still lots of time. But Brice, I see, we've obviously having so much fun here again. But what I would love to do, we still wanted to talk about some of the yoga cleansing practices and stuff like that. But we will definitely bring that in then the next time to talk about some of the stuff, because the Ayurveda, which is the medicinal area practice, if you will, which is the sister practice to yoga. And Ayurveda is natural, it's prevention rather than curative. Yeah. So with Ayurveda, we want to go into that, maybe some Ayurvedic cooking, Ayurvedic medicine, because any like naturopathy, homeopathy, everything is based on Ayurveda actually. So it is just such a beautiful way of preventing things rather than curing things. So I mean, for myself, just like things like oil pulling, neti potting every day, dry brushing,
Tongue
stuff
scraping.
like that, tongue scraping. I
tongue
do that at
scraping,
night. I must say, I do my tongue scraping at night. I like the
Same.
oil pulling. That for
Yeah.
me is better in the morning. I just love that whole thing. And then I know you in your lineage, which we don't do in ours, is the oil bathing. I would love to know more about that
Oil
as well.
baths yeah, we'll talk about, do you want to do that next week, the oil baths, or next 2 weeks? Or
2
now?
weeks, yes, we
Yeah,
can do.
cool.
We can.
Yeah.
You know what? How much time do we actually have? Do we have a little bit of time?
I mean, I've got time if you want to touch on it a little bit.
I would love to touch on the oil bathing if you don't mind. So let's talk about that.
Oil bathing is like, I mean, that changed my life. And when I tell people to take an oil bath, they often think it's like dumping oil in the bathtub. No, it's not. So I'm going to tell you guys that depending on your dosha will depend on the oil you use. However, if you don't know your dosha, the oil that works across the board for all people is castor oil, which is so funny because how many of our parents used castor oil as kids and then all of a sudden they stopped using it? Castor oil is amazing. So what I would tell people to do, what castor oil does is it heats the body up, you put it on your skin and it pulls impurities out. So if you do, so for someone like myself who does Ashtanga yoga, it's a high demand physical practice. I've been sore. I laugh and tell people I've been sore for 15 years now. I'm just always sore, but it helps get all that inflammation out from the body. And so what they tell us to do in the Ashtanga lineage, we rest on Saturdays. Saturdays is our rest day. It's the day of Saturn. It's the day of karma, so a day of reflection. So you're supposed to take the oil bath the morning of your rest day. However, I do my oil bath the evening before my rest day because the oil bath will make you sleep, will knock you out for like hours. So what you do with an oil bath, if you're just starting out oil bathing, depending on what country you live in, definitely check the castor oil because there are some castor oils that are poisonous and some that aren't. Now in India, you have to check which oil you're getting. Here in the United States, they only sell the kind that isn't poisonous. So, so just wherever you are. But if you're in the United States, Whole Foods does sell the castor oil for body in the yoga section in Whole Foods. But so what I do is I put a bunch of towels down on the floor of my bathroom. And you take all your clothes off and you just cover yourself in castor oil. Now castor oil will take days to come out of your hair. So I would suggest not putting it in your hair, even though they will do that in India. If you take an oil bath in India, they will put it on your scalp. Just buyer beware with the hair. It takes a while to come out. So I don't put the castor oil in my hair, but I put it all over my physical body. Now, when you first start doing oil baths, you need to only sit for like 10, 15 minutes with the oil on. I now sit for an hour to 90 minutes with the oil on. And so for me, what I do is sometimes I'll bring my laptop in the bathroom with me and maybe watch some stuff. You could turn music on and like meditate or lay down with towels around you with the oil, whatever you need to do at that time when you're letting the oil penetrate your skin. You can also, like, something I do is once I have the oil all over me is I'll actually go through my body and like massage deeper into different parts of my limbs just to get the oil really in there. Then once the time is over, once you're done with the oil bath, then you take a shower. You can get soap nut powder because sometimes castor oil is hard to come off. Soap nut powder is like this powder, you mix it with water and you scrub it to exfoliate to get the oil off. Now, fair warning, soap nut powder is brown. And it could be very, very dirty. And so it can look like someone had explosive diarrhea in your bathroom when you're done with the soap nut powder.
Thanks for fair warning.
It's a bit of a warning. It's a bit of so if you're going to use the soap nut powder, just make sure you're very careful. You're not slinging it all over your shower because especially if you're like in a new relationship and your boyfriend comes over and there's like brown stuff all over your bathroom. Just warning you. Now, I have to, in India, I have to use soap nut powder because the oil is so thick in India. Here in the United States, with the oil you get, you can really just use any type of like exfoliant body soap and it'll come off. Now, once you're done with the oil bath, you will feel very relaxed.
How long do you keep it on?
I keep it on for 60 minutes to 90 minutes, but I've been doing this for years now. I would not suggest first time for people to sit that long. It'll kick your butt. Do 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes your first time and see how you respond to it. I take my shower. Your nose will run like crazy once you're done because it's releasing everything. So the castor oil is like a detox on your fascia. And it gets, when you put it, I put it on my face too. So the nose will start to run when you're done. And then once you're done, you're out of the shower, you're going to feel very relaxed, very sleepy. Go ahead, get in the bed and go to sleep. I'm not a sleeper like at all. I'm not a heavy sleeper. Last oil bath I did, I slept for 13 hours straight after I was done. So the body goes through
Yeah.
complete just detoxing, healing. And then the next day I rest. I don't exercise the next day. So I let the body continue to kind of recalibrate itself. You can do oil packs. So for people that do have issues, like I know I have a friend who has a knee issue in Ashtanga. And so you can get like old t-shirts or something and just rip a strip of cloth, heat your oil up. Now I do heat my castor oil up on the stove before I put it on anyway, just to make it warm, because I'm a baby and I hate being cold. So I make it warm. But if you're, heat it up, put the cloth in the oil, soak it, and then you can literally wrap it around your knee and then put cellophane over it and like sleep with the oil pack on your knee and let the inflammation come out, and then get up in the morning and you're fine. So you can isolate it as well. Now in India, you can actually go to an Ayurvedic clinic and have someone do an oil bath for you. I do that in India. The first time I did it, it was the most wild experience of my life. They actually put you on a table that looks like a pool table. It's got sides, and you're butt ass naked in India. Like they take everything off of you. And if you're a woman, you're going to have two women. If you're a man, you're going to have two men, and they actually apply the oil to you for like an hour and a half and massage it into your body. And then they put you in like this heater thing that heats it up, and then they wash it off of you. And so when I'm in India, I actually do go to the Ayurvedic clinic for oil baths because they do it professionally. They're trained in this. And so it's just kind of a treat to do it that way versus doing it myself here in the United States. But it's definitely, you don't have to be a yoga practitioner to do an oil bath. You don't even have to be like an exerciser to do an oil bath, because it's literally just pulling the toxins out, just once a week, just pulling those toxins out.
Oh boy, I'm going to be doing that. I know what I'm doing on Friday night. Life of a single woman.
I was about to say, it might sound romantic, like if you have a partner doing oil baths together. I've done oil baths with partners before. It's not romantic though. It's like you're covered in castor oil, you stink because you're covered in castor oil. And for me as a Vata, sesame seed oil is the best for me. And I'll tell you guys a funny story, because I'm not a cook. I'm not really good in the kitchen. So one day I was like, okay, I'm going to go get some sesame seed oil because that's the best for Vatas. Well, I bought the wrong damn oil. It was the cooking oil. And so I smelled like a Chinese restaurant for like a week because I had sat with
the sesame. Oh my goodness.
I smelled like a bunch of changs. I was like, why do I smell? I was like, and my best friend was like, because that's not the right, that's the cooking oil, not the oil for oil tasting. I was like, oh. So
I love that.
That's for me. And you can castor oil, you can ingest if you're constipated. Castor oil will.
Well, the old wives' tales say when you're highly pregnant and you're trying to bring on labor, you should have castor oil. You should drink castor oil.
Yeah,
so,
it's a miracle oil. Yeah. So
I do oil face cleansing. The oil cleansing, and I use the castor oil. I find it very thick, so I always warm before. But you know what I find? I generally tend to have an allergic reaction to most oils. The things I don't have a reaction to is olive oil and coconut oil. So I'm going to try the castor oil on my body.
Yeah.
Definitely. I try it on my face, but I'm not on my body yet. But generally, even grapeseed oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil, macadamia nut oil, I have reactions, especially if I use it, because I do a lot of the cupping, body cupping. Yeah. And I use oils with that. And I mean, not too long ago, I just get these blistery rashes. So my skin doesn't like certain oils.
Well, try castor oil for like 10 minutes this week, just to see how your body responds to it on your actual body. And you could probably sit longer, Shanti, since you've been doing so many healing modalities for a long time, but just to test it on your skin to see if your skin's going to be okay with castor oil. If you guys don't want to use castor oil and you want to use an oil that's more specifically based for your dosha, I would definitely suggest seeing an Ayurvedic doctor to figure out what your dosha is. But castor oil, again, is supposed to work across the board for all doshas.
I'm Vata Pitta. So would that be castor oil? Is that the
or almond oil is good for Vata Pitta, or sesame seed oil as well is good for Vata Pitta.
Okay.
Because coconut oil is really good for kappas, because pittas is good for castor oil coconut oil. I know it can cool down the fire of the pitta, but it can also dry out the vata for the coconut oil. But coconut oil in your hair, I will put coconut oil. So that's my vanity thing. I'll put the castor oil over my body, but I'll put the coconut oil in my hair just for vanity, because coconut oil in your hair will make your hair very soft. And
I love it. I love that. Really, I do. I do. So do a lot of that stuff. Wow. Well, that is really something I'm going to be trying this weekend. That's for sure. So I know what my Friday night date is.
Yes, exactly. Sleep, then you don't want anybody to bother you. You're like, I'm gonna go shut my bedroom door and I'm gonna curl up and I'm gonna go to sleep, because you're just so relaxed. You're so relaxed. And I would like, if everybody else is trying it this weekend, let me know. Like, I'd like to hear everybody's experience with these oils.
I will definitely, would love to. Absolutely. That's going to be so cool. I'm really looking forward to that. Brice, it's always such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. Love this chat on yoga. So nice. So look forward to our future chats we're going to be having as well. So really enjoying this. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I will see you again tomorrow, is it? Or is
tomorrow,
it Friday?
Yes. Tomorrow with Catherine. Yes. We're
Catherine.
going to be talking about body dysmorphia, which is a very important topic. Very important that we talk about. So
Totally. Wonderful. Love you lots. Take good care of yourself. And we will see you soon again.
Absolutely.
Guys and girls, thank you so much for watching us, and I really appreciate you. So if you haven't already, please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe on this channel, because it's really all about sharing solutions for everything. And yoga is such a preventative thing, you know, even though you can use it to cure many ailments in your body and in your mind and in your psyche and all the rest. But even if you don't have issues, it's such a preventative thing. It's just such a beautiful practice, not just the physical practice, but the spiritual practice that goes along with it, and the cleansing practices and all of these amazing things. And they're really not that expensive if we think about it. You know, to cure something is a lot more expensive than to prevent something to begin with. So, God bless you all. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.